Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our January regular session board meeting in February. So it's a fun, special night. Thanks for braving the snow and the cold and bearing with us a week later. So call this meeting to order. Let the record show all board members are present except for Dr. Fegley. And let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, board, we have an agenda before us. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda carries. So up first, Dr. Binion, Terrific Tigers. And we'll call names, and you can come up front and get pictures, and then everybody will stay up, and we'll take a big group picture at the end.
Okay, first from the Early Childhood Center, we have Charlie Russler, pre-K, daughter of Janice and Samuel Russler. Charlie was chosen as, is she coming? Okay. Yeah. Charlie was chosen as Terrific Tiger because she showcases a love for learning, a kindness towards others, and an infectious spirit. Charlie is an exemplary leader and an inclusive friend, inviting and assisting others consistently. Charlie and her positive attitude are the perfect example of a tiny, terrific tiger. Cute little dress.
I think the kneeling is better than the stool, but you guys might not be able to get up if you do that too much.
Next, from Alma Schroeder Elementary, we have Kelsey Wheeler, kindergartner, daughter of Amy and Jack McDonald. Kelsey is a kind and gracious student. She is the first to help out in the classroom and is always giving compliments to help encourage her fellow students. Kelsey comes in every day with a smile on her face and is eager to learn. She lights up the room and is a joy to be around. From Blanchard Elementary, we have Wren Emmons, kindergartner, daughter of Ashley Emmons and Samantha Berner. Wren always gives her best in every task presented to her with enormous energy, enthusiasm, and a thirst for learning. She displays the utmost kindness and respect towards everyone. Wren has a contagious smile, and her words and actions encourage everyone to be the best they can be every day. Do we have two from Blanchard? Is that right? Okay, all right. So we have a second from Blanchard. This is Winter Emmons. She's also the daughter of Samantha Berner and Ashley Emmons. Winter is a perfect example of a terrific tiger. She is an outstanding kindergartner student who always shows respect to her teachers and classmates. Winter always follows instructions and tries her best in every activity. Her kindness shines through as she is always willing to help others. From Clifford Elementary, Armand Davis, 4th grade, son of Tiara and Arthaniel Davis. Armand is an excellent friend, helpful student, and hard worker. He takes pride in Clifford by his choices to be respectful, responsible, and safe. Armand never gives up and is always trying his best. He shares his thoughts and participates in every class. Armand can always be counted on to lend a helpful hand, and he recently joined our safety patrol team. From Franklin Elementary, Prosper Anderson, kindergartner, son of Ronald Anderson and Kayla Knighton. Prosper is a very conscientious and polite young man. He works diligently during class to learn new things. Prosper models good listening and thinking skills, and he shares and takes turns easily. He accepts responsibility and maintains a delightful personality. Prosper is a good friend who is kind to others and is quick to help when someone is in need. From Jefferson Elementary, Ariana Williams, kindergartner, daughter of Eric Williams and Alindria Applewhite. Ariana is a star student who leads by example. In the classroom, she's always listening and following directions. With a kind heart, she is always sharing and helping others. Ariana has a passion for learning and tries her very best on everything she does. Her sweet smile brightens up our entire classroom every day. We are so blessed to have her in our class. From Central Middle School, Lillian Gaither, 6th grade, daughter of Muriel and Cody Gaither. Lily has the gift of leadership and is someone who clearly has a heart for others. Lily has served on our student leadership team this year, and she is a CMS Student of the Month recipient. Additionally, Lily has drafted plans for the Little Library on the CMS campus. This initiative will promote literacy in our community by creating a location for a book exchange. From Terry W. Kitchen Junior High, Levi Morris, 8th grade, son of Christina and Daniel Morris. Levi has one of the best attitudes in the building. He's a friend to everyone and enters every room with a big smile on his face. He gives above and beyond effort to all of his assignments. His cheerful attitude and consistently positive interactions with all of his peers brighten every day. From Central High School, Bruce Miller, 12th grade, son of Elizabeth and Frank Miller. Bruce has become one of Cape Central's outstanding student leaders this year. His straightforward, no-nonsense confidence makes him a great decision maker that his peers and teachers appreciate and admire. He is the perfect example of a terrific Tiger. From Central Academy, Soraya Horrell, 12th grade, daughter of Trevonda Horrell. And that's it. Yeah.
We have a clear back row, I think.
Nice to know your board.
Sometimes, Casey, we don't make you earn your money. You go in the back row.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You can do it online now. Right, sure.
Make it so your face shows.
I'll write it, and I'll read it too. Like make a note of the district.
She's the new JC. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was like, wait, that's not making sense, but okay.
Where's everybody going?
You weren't part of it.
All right, well, thank you guys very much. Congratulations to all the terrific Tigers. We appreciate it. Up next, information, proposals, or comments from the audience. Mr. Payne, do we have any?
The individual requesting for this month has since requested to be placed on the 23rd.
Okay. Okay. And again, our policies, basically 5 days before, you can make comments to the board. Reach out to Mr. Payne here at the board office if anybody has any. All right, so up next, information reports, board president's report. I was going to keep it short. We've kind of got a long agenda today. It's the biggest thing. I hope everybody had fun sledding and it doesn't think anybody got hurt. So thankful Friday went well and we're back in the groove again. So that's all I've got. I'll pass it off to yourself, Dr. Bidney.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We've had some really exciting news to share with everyone. On Friday, when we went back to school, I had to get on stage in front of a lot of junior high kids that had to come back to school for Friday. But I'm glad that we were able to do that. We're going to have this person come at the end of this month as well to talk to you a little bit about. But Haley Russell, you know that she was nominated for Assistant Principal of the Year for our region. Well, she has won the state title of Assistant Principal of the Year. It's very exciting. It's a huge award. She's going to have to do some speaking and some traveling to Washington D.C. But there's no better person to earn that than Haley. And Miss Russell, she works so hard over there, and I know our team would say the same thing as well. So I didn't want to leave that out today because we're really proud of her and so well deserved. Community developmental screenings are going to be happening. We will be hosting free developmental screenings for children aged 6 months to 34 months on February 20th and April 10th. Children will be screened in areas of health, vision, hearing, and overall development. This is a great way for families to have an understanding of how their child is developing compared to their peers. Families can sign up for a screening by going to our website. Lastly, Penguin Party's right around the corner, February 14th. I'm sure most of you have already gotten your tickets. We're excited about that. But everyone out there, please consider supporting the Cape Girardeau Public Schools Foundation at the Penguin Party on February 14th. It is always a fun event and a great way to support our schools. Tickets are available by reaching out to Miss McDonald, or you can also link it to our foundation website as well.
Yes, sir, Dr. Binion, if I could
Yeah.
add to that.
Yeah.
We're still looking for sponsors, auction items, and table sales. So again, reach out to Amy McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And parlay our congratulations to Ms. Russell. Ms. Russell. All right, up next, CSIP program evaluation, safety and emergency response intervention plan, Mr. Crowell.
So, board, before you have our program evaluation, roughly how many students or families will be impacted. So this is part of Elevate 2, provide comprehensive analysis and recommendations for best practices of safety and security. So we've had a discussion on what Senate Bill 68 that was certified into statute brought as a baseline for all Missouri public and charter schools. About 99.9% of it we were already doing or ahead of it. A couple of them are just always ongoing, so that's why we'll never be there at 100%. One of those is always keeping our emergency operation plans up to date and revising them annually because our buildings change, our various different things change, and so always staying up to date on that. Concerns that we've had, we're limited on some of our funding, but we've been very successful in getting grants that have given us a jump start into areas. One of those things are weapons detection units that we have deployed throughout the district that we can use whenever they're needed for extracurricular events or for daily use at some of our schools as well. As you see through here, I think, again, we have a very good plan, and we have it as above average. And you can also click the link to look at our public-facing safety security protocols that we have available for our community to represent everything that we do as a district. Questions, concerns, or comments?
Thank you very much. And up next, CSIP Elevate 2 to kind of go on that together? Or?
Yeah, so that's the link.
Yes.
That goes into all the various different protocols that we do district-wide. And we have it broken down into various silos between what district personnel do. If we have hard systems, emergency go bags throughout, walkie-talkies and door barricades for our classrooms, various different things of that nature. Then we look at what we do preventative-wise internally, whether it be drills that we take all of our schools through, various different trainings that our staff have, ongoing organizations that we have set up within our districts, and then externally, all the various different partnerships that we do. So went a little bit deeper in with concerns, Senate Bill 68 now being law, just making sure that, not a concern, but we are meeting the legal guidance that we're supposed to adhere to. That legal guidance was supposed to be pushed out publicly to all schools, public and charter, by December 31st of 2025. Here we are at February 2nd, 2026, and Bessie is still not giving us that guidance. But we're following the spirit of the law as we read it, and hope to have that specific legal guidance.
So in parallel to safety, several of us on the board are perceived to have more power than we do and are accused of deciding whether or not we have school. When it's snowy, how is that decision made? Just in parallel with safety? Just, yeah.
You make that decision.
That's what we were accused of, but that's,
Yeah, you guys make that decision.
It's all Casey Cook.
yeah.
He's one person that has
Yeah.
all of that decision making.
All right, well, thank you very much. Anybody have any other questions, Mr. Crowe? Thank you very much. So, other grant-funded programs, Local Food for Schools grant.
So I'd like to make a quick introduction of Randa and Miranda, our dietetics program, and they're going to come up and share some extremely good news that we have as a district, but we also need, later on in the board, you're granting us the acceptance of the good news that we're sharing with us. If, Jamie, if you're running the deal, we can do the local food for school grant PowerPoint.
Yep.
Like Josh said, so I'm Miranda, the dietitian for Cape Public Schools, and we found out that we were going to get $6,000 to spend on local foods in our district. Then we requested some more funding, and we found out in December, right before Christmas break, that we're actually going to get $50,000 in addition to that. So we've started spending the money already, even though a lot of things aren't in season right now, but we're trying to get in what we can. So, so far, we have gotten in some watermelon from a farm in Fruitland, and we got spinach from Southside Farms, and then we've got some honey we just got in last week to use on chicken biscuits in our schools. So we're super excited. We have some pictures of the kids with the items that we've gotten so far, too. We always try to provide them with a nutrition education piece so they know a little bit about the foods that we're getting in.
That wasn't a kid that was over there to the right. That was
No. That's Mr. Moore.
Clifford.
But the kids have really liked it. It's been really fun and exciting to get our staff involved in it as well. But we've had a really good time, and we're excited to bring in a lot more products too.
Some of our goals moving forward, or some things we've talked about, is bringing in fresh local products. It saves money. It's more nutritious for our kids. So moving forward, we plan to really partner with Southside Farms. I like how it's local here in Cape. And we've requested to do like berries, sweet potatoes, more spinach. The kids have really been like wanting like Caesar salads and different things. We've sent out surveys, so we're trying to get some feedback on that, what the kids like, and you guys would be shocked, but the most thing they say is fresh stuff. So we're like, okay, we've got to really step up our game. Even though, school lunch maybe not always be the best, we're trying to amp it up and do the best we can. So that's what we're going forward. We're gonna try to, partner with like Inland Rice and local farmers to get some fresh products in. And here we just really talked about the benefit of food being fuel and why we want our kids to have healthy food, so it helps fuel them to learn throughout the day too. So, any questions?
Have these been going to all the schools, or just been hitting a few so far? Or?
Yep, the honey has been in all, I don't know if it's been served in all of them just yet, but it's been delivered. The watermelon was everybody, and the spinach has been at everybody too. Some of them are serving just spinach salad, some are mixing it in with like a lettuce clove, but yeah. It all has. Mhm.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
What days do you serve the biscuits?
Yes.
Friday.
This looks pretty good.
Yeah, the chicken biscuit with honey look great. All right, thank you guys very much. Okay, up next, Recovery High School, Ms. Keys.
So what you guys are looking at is what was presented to the state.
Working.
Sorry.
Just going slow.
Chop, chop.
Okay, so, we did a presentation to you guys back when we started first looking at the opportunity to, apply for this grant. And this is not the same presentation. So what we're gonna show you guys today is the proposal that we actually did for the state board, at DESE in Springfield. And so we met with them, in December, right, Krista? And then we ended up going back in January, after we knew that we knew they were gonna have the vote, to see whether or not we were gonna be accepted. So I'm just gonna kinda go through what we presented to them so that it's not exactly what you've heard before. So the first slide just talks about our district mission and vision statement and our slogan. And our goal is to educate every student every day. And our CSIP plan, specifically Goal Learn 3, which is the goal that I champion, reads to continue to develop and implement responsive, inclusive programs and services to meet the needs of all students. And our goal is under that, is to expand student access to counseling, social work services, and mentoring opportunities across the district. And so when the Recovery High School discussion came about, we felt that this really fit nicely into our Learn 3 in one of the areas that we knew that we had a need in the district. So our enrollment projections, as you know from what we talked about before, the kind of sweet spot for Recovery High Schools is 30 to 50 students total. The idea is to keep it small so that you can give a lot of individualized attention. So that's why we went with 40 students. Year one for us was this year. So this was when we were doing all of our planning, and the money that we received from a prior grant helped us with all of the planning and visiting of other Recovery High Schools. So we had 0 students. For next year, our goal would be to start with 10, and then we would go 15, 20, and up to 40. When we hit 20 students is when we would be opening the door to other districts. If they would like to send their students, they could apply to attend. If we don't fill the 10 and 15 with our students from within, then we would open those doors sooner to make sure that we were giving everybody an opportunity that we possibly can. Any student that attends from another district would pay tuition, and it would be above and beyond the regular tuition rate for CAPE because this presents higher need positions within the school to be able to serve the students. So we'll get into that here shortly. Our staffing plan would be that the first year we're going to have a part-time director because we would only have 10 students. We would have a counselor that would actually be contracted through Community Counseling Center. We already have that relationship with them, and The funding for that would come out of the grant, but we have had discussions with them that when the grant ends, they are willing to write this part of the program or this part of the staffing into their own budget. The registered behavior technician, same thing. Recovery coach, we will eventually, the first year that we have students, we will have one, and then we would increase the number of recovery coaches as the students increase. And their role is to support the recovery component of the students. So they would be doing groups with them, supporting instruction in their recovery and wellness class, supporting needs in the evening, and doing some of our after-school programming too. But they would be there during a portion of the school day as well, to make sure that they're interacting with them on their educational needs as well. And then the instructional staff, we would have a lead teacher and then a second teacher that would start out with us until we start to increase. And then we'd have a part-time elective teacher that would cover several electives. And then we would have a special ed teacher, but that position will be shared. So part of that position will be at another building in the district, and then the other half of it, as needed, will be at the Recovery High School. Support staff that we included in the grant funding would be an administrative assistant, a custodian, nutrition service staff member, and then transportation needs for that as well. So our referral network, you can't see that enrollment rubric. You might be able to blow it up on your screens. But students can be referred from a variety of sources. That includes our school counseling staff. It can include external behavior providers, such as Community Counseling Center, Gibson Center, the FCC, also County Juvenile Department, direct parent caregiver initiation, and self-referral. This is not a school that we will force students to go to. It is up to their parent, guardian, and they have to have some kind of desire to be a part of it through some rating scales that we have. And if you're able to blow up that enrollment rubric, it gets a little more detailed into what those things look like. Okay. Our academic goals they kind of follow what we have for the school district. So by the end of the 27-28 school year, students who have completed 2 consecutive years at their Recovery High School will complete all mandatory Missouri assessments and perform at or above the rest of the district in the areas of proficient or advanced. The students will exhibit increased attendance and engagement in school, accruing necessary credits to prepare for graduation. We know that attendance is an issue for a lot of our students, but specifically our students who are struggling with sometimes some type of substance use. And so the smaller learning environment in the other recovery high schools that across the nation, they have seen a quicker increase in student attendance and engagement just because the school is smaller, they feel more comfortable, people understand their concerns when they walk in the door. So we are hopeful to see that, as well as engaging in extracurricular activities to support their recovery. So we talked when we spoke before about group peer support, GPS, that would be after school, offered 5 days a week, but not every student would have to attend 5 days. It would depend on where they were in their program. And then we would also have 3 programs that community agencies would carry out in the evenings throughout the week, so that students would have an additional meeting to attend if they felt like they needed to. Those after-school programs and night programs would also be open to other students, adolescents in the surrounding area, community, county, that students that don't attend the Recovery High School but want to attend recovery meetings where youth are present could attend those, because currently those don't exist publicly. Graduation dropout rate, hopefully we're increasing our graduation rate. The students will have an individual learning plan as well as their ICAP that all students at the high school have to fill out. But they will also have a recovery plan that is aligned right in with that to make sure that they're, as they're walking in their recovery, they're meeting their guidelines for graduation as well. The school will be its own school with its own title. It won't be under Cape Central High School. It will have its own name. So it will be an accredited high school, but we also are required through the grant to gain accreditation through the Association of Recovery High School by the end of year 5. And we know exactly what we have to do that. Right now we have standing calls on Tuesdays, We have one tomorrow with the guy who is the head of the National Association of Recovery High Schools, so he's working with us. Stuart Smith, who came to our meeting when we first presented, he's on those calls, and Sharice, who's from the Department of Mental Health, she is also on that call. So they are walking with us every step of the way, as well as the other two recovery high schools that were granted funding. They also are on that as well. So that is the end of what we presented to the state. I did ask Ms. Turner to be here because they had more information than this. This is just what we went over with them. Like, they had all of our financials that Stuart presented earlier in the presentation. We presented that to you before, but if you did have questions about the financials, Ms. Turner knows that piece a lot better than me, so that's why I asked her to be here tonight. What questions do you have for me? Oh, I did want to tell you that, DESE did award us the grant, as well as the other two programs that requested money. We requested way less money than the other two, and so they had less questions for us as we presented than they did the other two, but the other two are going to be charter schools that are kind of going through kind of like a community counseling center that's established in St. Louis and Kansas City. So they're not already an existing school district, so there's a lot of work that they have to do that we won't have to do.
Back up on slide 7 with the budget. I was just curious, the other two, their budgets were increasing and ours was decreasing. What was going on in that slide? Yeah, slide 7 right there.
So for us, construction, ours was the big cost on the front end, and then I'll let Krista talk about.
Yeah, so they are hoping, they're gonna have to get money from a lot of other places to make that work, because there's not that much money in the grant,
For the other districts.
for the other districts. The last year, I'm sorry, I'm kinda old. That year 4 is the lowest, but we go back up in year 5 through 10, and we request the full amount of $900,000 after that. New district meeting. So this is almost all, fiscal year 26 is almost all capital for us. That's the facilities. This is about $400,000 of capital, and then the rest are HR, computers for kids, computers for staff, furniture, curriculum, things like that. We don't have to buy that every year, like that. So this year, we've got 10 students this year, we've got 15 students in fiscal year 28. I spread it out, there's a little bit of capital still in this year, not a lot, but like, an outdoor garden area, and, a pavilion, so you can have outdoor space, I'm trying to think. A classroom that is, what did we call it, like an experiential learning classroom. I think there's,
For cooking, for
yeah,
science.
it would have
it'll
cooking,
have multiple
science,
different
all
things
that
in
kind
it.
of stuff in it. So, there's $40,000 in that fiscal year 28, that's just for that classroom. So, as we add staff, we have to add money for that. And that's really why that 4th year is kind of low, because we paid for everything in those first 3 years that are big ones. Then it goes back up because start in year 6, I'm starting to refresh technology and things like that, and we refresh every technology piece then before the end of the grant.
We're also at our highest number of students at year 6, and so we do start to add staff at that year. So if you saw the full 10-year projection that we presented the first time, it shows you the increase. The state just wanted to look at the first 4 years for each program.
And this is all grant proceeds. I mean, it's not.
Yes.
It's not out of Lindsay's.
No,
Okay.
nothing out of Lindsay's purse.
So
Okay.
all of the, it's buying 2 minivans, 1 minivan in fiscal year 27, and an additional one in fiscal year 28 to use as the transportation. It's paying staff an hourly rate to drive those minivans before and after school. It's all of the benefits.
And then
It's-
out of districts is tuition. It's tuition based, I think it's 16,000.
So,
It's
Yeah,
me on
so
that.
once we get, so the up to the 900, like the 1.4 and then the up to 900 is written into the grant. Once we get to, there are, let's say, slightly over 900, starting in not even, let's see. Glasses on me, still trying to figure them out. Like, we're barely over, like, 914 in year 5, but we have 30 students, and we're assuming at least 10 of those will be from outside the district, and they're gonna be paying,
15.5, I think, was the first year what we came up with.
that would be like
15.7.
if they were joining us next year. So by
Yes,
then,
yes,
it's gonna be
correct.
over 17.
Each year it
So if
goes
you
up.
had 10 students paying $17,000, we're gonna make up the $15,000 that I'm over budget for the 900.
And I wanna,
Like, it's $914,000 of expenses in year 5, if we have 30 students.
In the grant,
Funds
is it
900,000.
900?
so here I wanna speak to that
Yeah.
because, you might be thinking, as I was originally, what parent is gonna go, I'm gonna pay $17,000 for my kid to come? They don't have to. So what happens is you get that student's annual amount of money that comes with the student as they become a Cape Public Schools student. Their ADA, thank you. You get that, and then anything above that, the sending district has to pay, but they get reimbursed from DESI for that extended amount. So they're no money out to send a student to us. They are originally before they get the reimbursement. So there's no reason why they wouldn't send a student, because there's no skin in the game for them. It's just an additional service for their student, if that makes sense.
Talk to me about the, oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so if the ADA for that kid's $10,000, then, and we're charging 17 by year 4 or 5, say it's from Jackson. Jackson would pay us the 17, they get the 10 back from the state for ADA, and then they submit a special form to the state saying, we paid an additional 7 for this kid to go to Recovery High School, and the state reimburses them for that 7. So, yeah, so there's no
Yeah.
parents aren't out money, it's all still public money, it just doesn't come through the grant, it comes through a different pot.
And there are also, in addition to these funds, federal funds that we have already looked at that are going to be able to supplement a lot of this after year 10, as well as community counseling centers' commitment to taking on some of the cost in many of the positions that we have within their organization.
So, it's been a while since we had, when Dr. Beck gave that presentation, I think before, talked about some of the numbers, and or maybe you shared other districts who've done this, like in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Portland, Oregon. And I think our ramp used to be slower than what we show here. And I think most of those big cities had slower ramps than this, and I guess I'm curious, what happens if we don't ramp as fast? How does that affect anything?
Doesn't hurt us. We asked that question. Doesn't hurt us. If we don't go up, if we don't hit 40, it doesn't hurt us. We still get the same amount of money each year. It's not a per student rate.
Do we think, so you mentioned that it would be exclusively our district, current district, until you get to 20, unless you
Unless we can't hit it.
underrepresented it, then you open it up. Where do we envision, like, what do we think is going to happen based on where this has happened in other places? Like the Vivo, Melissa Mouton, or however she says her name, like she's done this in Colorado, and now she's doing it in Kansas City and St. Louis. I noticed their ramp is, slightly more aggressive, but they're
Yeah.
seeing a catchment area of several million people.
They are, and they also originally had a number of 100 and something students that they thought that they were going to be able to serve, which the state didn't feel was realistic. So they actually were required to bring their numbers back to be a more realistic number. So, I mean, we're stopping ours at 40 because we think that that's what research shows us. They're making their own decisions. They are also have a lot more students in their area that they're looking to serve. And they are gonna have to raise money for theirs outside of the money that they're getting to do everything that they would like to do.
Because
We will not.
we're saying they're not getting the amount of money shown here, or they are getting.
They are getting the amount of money.
No,
Under-
not necessarily, that's what their budget is, but.
Yes.
But like, there's not that, they're gonna have to use other, this year there's that much money. This year there's not that much money, but ours is written where we're gonna use those, they had to write in other funding sources to go with their money. we didn't have to, because we didn't go
Cap
over
that
900,000,
900,000.
which I made sure we didn't this year, so that I rolled some expenses to year 3, so that we wouldn't go over, like the 40,000 for the experiential learning and patio outside with a pavilion on it and picnic tables. The second van, we'll wait till July 1. Like I initially had it built where we were gonna buy one before July 1, and then another one before, the next July 1. And I just pushed those off a year to try to make our budgets a little better. So I manipulated it a little bit and still tried to make sure that we did not have to look for outside funds. Like that's the goal, is we wanted this to all fall under one umbrella. They have a lot of staff in theirs that they have a full-time
They have a lot of
CFO
people at the
level
top.
position just for fundraising built into their plans. Like,
But
they
you
have
see
some-
that at
and
a
that's
lot of the
okay.
charter schools.
Yes, you do
So,
see that a lot of the charter.
A lot of the charter schools have built in, like, a director of fundraising, a director of curriculum, a director of whatever, and it was high end, and that's what we saw in, Indianapolis too. Because when we came back, I was like, this is the school that's probably we're gonna function most like, but we are not gonna have that many high-end people, because we have those people established in our district in other positions already. You don't need all that but we're a school district, and the ones that we were looking at were charter schools.
And
So,
sorry.
so we have a curriculum director, we don't need one
Right.
there. We have people that do HR, we have people that help with marketing built in.
So remind me, just for clarification, so in year 1, right now the grant says you have $1.4 million, I'm gonna round the numbers, $1.4 million in year 1, and up to a maximum of $900,000 for the subsequent 9 years, essentially, right?
From
Which is-
this grant, yes.
Which is a little over $10 million over that time period.
Yes. We do know, Sharice sits on the Department of Mental Health Board, and she meets with us every Tuesday. We've already looked at other funding sources that they have, in case we did decide to go bigger at some point. We're not looking at doing anything like that, but they foresee there being quite a few other options for funding to supplement if we ever want to do anything else. And that was brought up for state level as well.
And from a budget standpoint, I guess from an operations, like Mr. Crow and HR, and you guys all went in and
Yes.
worked that out.
Everybody helped,
In
do
their
that, and
area.
then I compiled it, so Dr. Beck did the HR budget, and sent it to me. Mr. Crowell did the facilities budget, and I'd go back and I'd say, okay, I think that we need to cut money here or there. Like we worked together on that. I worked with Mandy and, Jamie on the curriculum budget, and the professional development. They would send things to me, and I'd say, basically, it fits or it doesn't fit in the budget. Where we've got to negotiate a little bit. I think that's where Mr. Crowell and I worked, by moving a little bit of the funding because they told us we had to be at 1.4 or less for fiscal year 1, basically. I had sent it to them initially at 1.8, but I had fiscal year 27 and 28 were actually lower than that. So then I was like, okay, if I can have up to 900,000 both those years, we can delay a little bit and push it off. And I don't know that I need 4 full classrooms outfitted in year 1 for 10 kids and things like that.
Also regarding the build, we know that the building, probably because everything has been delayed with the state getting us in, this was supposed to go back in October. We thought we'd get to start building in January if the board approved. We are looking at not opening the new build until January of 2027. And we would house the students in the metal building that's across from the junior high, where we had a pre-K classroom at one time. We had 2 pre-K classrooms there. It's outfitted for 3 little office spaces, 2 classrooms. It has its own bathroom, everything in that area. So we can do that for the first few months until we get the facility
From a,
For food services, we'll just go ahead and do things for
from the junior high.
from just a long-term stewardship standpoint, and, we see how everything shaped, but year 4 or 5, and we see districts like this isn't working, or we're not getting the students, whatever else, what's the bailout? I don't know, I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure yet what the right words are there, but.
So the funding is not tied to the number of students at all for the first 10 years, because I specifically said, well, what if we don't grow like we think we're going to grow? that is not an issue. If it becomes an issue as we're going toward the end of that 10 years and we're gonna start picking things up and we're looking at our sustainability plan of what community counseling center is going to cover, what federal grant money that we're gonna get to come in, obviously, we're gonna have conversations like we do with any other program that we put out in the district. If it's not fiscally responsible, then we're gonna come up with a different path. What we have learned through this is, you know, if we get to that point and we decide, okay, we don't have enough students here, it's not adding up, we don't think it's gonna work, we have gotten so much rich information on how to help our kids through this process that we can then start to roll some of that out potentially into some of our schools. And Central Academy is already all over. She's like, I want some kids to attend GPS, and I want them to know about these options in the evenings. And so I don't think it will ever be, wow, we shouldn't have done this. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be successful. If it isn't, at some point, I think it's going to be, wow, we learned a lot, so now let's take what we know and push it out.
And the asset, the facility is ours at that point. If you're 10, we're going to use it for
Correct.
whatever.
We have two notes. One on that, we do have to have Desi, Stuart Smith, who is our Desi contact, he basically has to give it a stamp of approval annually. Kind of like we do, like the program evaluations come to you all to get a stamp of approval. We have to, like Desi checks my federal programs, my title plan every single year. By June 30th, I have to submit a new title plan for the next year, and they tell me yes or no, they need revisions, whatever. He still will be monitoring that annually. After 4 years, we have to go back to the state board. And they would have to, it's not a full vote again, it's more kind of like the charter schools do, which, you know, hey, yeah, okay, you got accredited like you were supposed to, or you're in process of getting accredited, you're meeting your goals that you told us you were going to, or you're making progress towards them that you told us they were going to, those kind of, but it's not until after year 4 that we have to go back and do that. So that is one thing I wanted to add about your kind of like long-term plan. And then the other thing that, Casey, you made me think about whenever you said, you were asking more about the budget. For the facility, we even have we've built in, annual like plans for operating expenses. Like we have, for utility bills, maintenance costs, custodial supplies, things like that, and then it has a 2% annual increase. We have money built in for like utility bills and everything for that into the grant. So the district really should be out $0 for 10 years. Like there's not an ounce that I have not built into here that I can think of.
And as we discussed earlier, because I was looking at these numbers, we put in high-end salary numbers for the teachers. Probably that won't be where the teachers that we hire are coming in at, so we did pad it, for lack of a better word, to make sure that we would have enough funding to do what we felt like we needed to.
How does this work from a standpoint? So let's go back to exactly that point you just raised. So if we end up we didn't end up spending in FY '27 the full $900,000 on this project because ultimately we paid a lower level or we saved money on utilities or whatever the case may be. Do we still get the full amount, or is it like invoice reimbursement where we say, here's what it cost us, and they give us money back?
We're hoping to have some of those questions answered. Typically, it's invoice reimbursement is the way Desi works. However, I have not had a grant or federal programs or an after-school program or anything that I can't move the money. So if we have less HR expenses and I want to spend more in training, or I want to take these kids on a field trip, or I want to purchase additional experiential learning equipment, I just submit a budget change to them, and I justify why I want to move the money. Our HR expenses are going to come in $50,000 under what we thought they were, and I would like to move that $50,000 to here. I've never had an issue getting that approved. So we don't lose it if we don't spend it in HR. I can move it. I still am going to have to expense it out by June 30th of that year. For the construction pieces, we have, Mr. Crowell has some, what do you call it, like a way that we can bucket that money by June 30th of this year. and then still use that money to continue paying those construction bills. I don't really understand that piece, but I know that he does, because we talked
If
about
he
it.
says it can happen, so it can.
He told me it can happen, so we won't lose those construction pieces, before the end of this fiscal year. That's kind of the one that's probably a little wonky, but then after that, it's no different than what I do in federal programs, and I move that money to where we need to based on what the principals and the other people sitting around here tell me where they want the categories to go.
And we did make some budget cuts because they came back to both us and Vivo and said, hey, we want you to make, some cuts on, well, actually they came to us and I said, well, wait, if we have to make cuts, you making them make cuts too? And they were like, yeah, we are. All right, just making sure we're all the same. But, also if we had additional money where we did make cuts, those are things that we can pick back up.
And coming back to like if we under-enroll, because again, I keep in my head thinking that like Charlotte, North Carolina enrolled like 4 kids, and they had 8 kids, and they had 10 kids. And that's a 3.5 million people community. And so I guess I come back to wondering, where do we think most of these students are gonna come from? It sounds like we think in this district, based on the 20, we won't do outside the district until we have 20.
Right. I think it will be from our 5, well, the first 20 I would love to see come from our school. I don't know whether or not we're gonna get that many that buy in. But from our 5 ourselves, including the 4 counties around us that Community Counseling Center also supports, I think that we'll get them from all of those counties. When you're talking about Charlotte, North Carolina too, that was a charter school. They weren't given money to start their program. No other state currently is funded as well as our program is getting ready to fund. So when we looked at the Minnesota schools, they were having to go out and work I don't want to say work the streets because that doesn't sound well, but that's what came to my mind. They were going out and constantly fundraising and having to make cuts because they didn't have any funding coming from their state to support them. One of the things that I will say that was unanimous, which it felt like nothing else at the board meeting was unanimous except for this, is every board member from DESE was on board, and some of them shared some of their own personal stories about their experiences and how this would have impacted them. And they also said that they were excited to see for the future and felt that this would be something that they want to keep in legislation to keep the funding as a budget line item as they move forward. Now, I know boards change, but that was what they shared that day.
So we also, one reason that we feel like we probably can fill those seats from within our district is prior to applying for this grant, there was a very small DESE grant that was like, research this and find out information about it. And one of the things we did was we hired, with that grant money, was we hired Glenview to do stakeholder findings. And so they surveyed and held some stakeholder focus groups, and then they surveyed our students, and that's what I was trying to look up right here. But we had like 20 or 30 students say they would be interested in attending Recovery High School from our high school at that time. Does that mean that all 30 of them would actually end up doing that? Probably not, but do I think that we probably are, there's probably some who didn't say they would that might end up in there, and there's probably some who said they would that probably won't end up coming. But I feel like that's telling us that there's a need here that we need to address. And we have students who are at least willing to consider that because they know they have a problem and they don't know how to fix it.
And the first thing is to get away from that fear, acknowledge it, and say, okay, I see help on the way. And on that note, I have 2 questions. One is that, okay, we get over the 20 and we start accepting from other districts. When graduation time comes, will they graduate from us?
Yes.
Here. Okay. So that's, and it will be like just the regular graduation, even though that is the Recovery High School.
So.
How's graduation handled on that?
We would actually discuss that within the admin team that will be at that building, their leadership team, how they want to do that. Because it may be that the students want to have their own separate graduation, which is what has happened in some schools. They've let the students kind of vote and decide what they want to do because they don't want to even though this is a small town kind of feel and they're remingling with the students in the community, that may not be where they may be proud of their graduation
Right.
and their facility. So that's all gonna be determined once we get our staff in
Sure.
place and we get our students in. A lot of the decisions that they made at the recovery high schools were with student leadership input. And I
Okay.
think that's important to give them a voice. I mean, they're doing some hard work,
Yes.
stepping up and saying, I need help and
Mhm.
I wanna get it, and I think they should have some say in how things play out for
Right.
them.
Well, I commend you guys on your work that you've done on this. Thank you.
I have one more question. So, and this may sound repetitive, so if we under-enroll out of the gate, and so you get 3 kids, and you get 5 kids, and you get 10 kids, do you still end up getting the same amount of money?
We get the same amount of money. It is not written in as a per-student rate. There's nothing per student about it. I wrote the grant, like,
We would shift the
There's-
money though, how we were gonna use it.
I would shift some of it because we only had 3 students. I probably don't need
7 teachers. Right.
2.5 teachers and an RBT and and the nice thing about, even at Central Academy, when you're looking at teacher certification, when you're with an at-risk population, you can code it as at-risk and any teacher certification works. So we still want highly qualified teachers, but they may be more qualified in, more like a special ed teacher who has experience with kids and less content, and then Mr. Russell could work with online programs, or we could shift students, teachers from across the district to help support specific subjects if we needed to. But we would hire less staff. I probably wouldn't need 2 vans, but I probably would go ahead and buy those in the years that I had them because
Right.
I have
We
that.
always need
You know,
transportation
the
in the
vans
district.
will last a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
But the amount that we would pay hourly for drivers wouldn't be as much because they wouldn't be driving as much. And I can move that money to buy either additional training for the staff at that building, the staff at some of our sending schools, at both Central
Marketing.
Academy. I can move it
use it
to
for
marketing and
marketing.
putting out some positive PR. We can use it for experiential learning off campus. We can use it for additional technology that maybe I hadn't thought of yet, that Mr. Hall and Mr. Russell haven't even told me it exists yet. You know, like, there's a lot of different ways that we can utilize those funds, to buy additional teacher, manipulatives and materials and things like that. So, we don't lose the money if we have 3 kids next year.
They just go to a field trip like Paris or something.
I mean, I think, like
Twice.
college visits, though,
That's what
are
I was gonna say.
expensive, because
Yeah,
I have
they
written a
are.
lot of grants for that, and just to get our kids to places other than SEMO. Not that SEMO isn't, and I've written grants to take our 4th and 5th graders to SEMO, and it was expensive just to get them across town. But, and that, some of them, that was the first time they'd ever really been on a university campus, and that was really awesome. But,
We can also.
we can take them to other places and we can pull them and see what they're interested in. And it might look different depending on what those 3 students, I mean, I could come up with something I think is really cool, but even if it's you and I might not have the same interest. So we need to really dig into what those kids want and need
That's
when
the,
they're there.
that's the individualization piece. So a lot of the schools in the first 2 to 3 years, when they have those small numbers, they're taking their kids to do things, 2 staff to 1 student. If they're interested in welding, they're gonna take them to the CTC to look at our welding facility, to do trade stuff, to go out and see businesses that they could be hired out of. We're gonna do a lot of student-centered, student-focused, individual experiences so that they can see that there's a way other than the way that they've been living. And the only way to do that is to get them out of what they're used to.
And so we're saying the only restriction, so I keep hammering this point, the only restriction is if we have 3 kids and we have 900 grand, 400 is gonna be CapEx. So we've got 3 kids, so we've got like $133,000 per student that we can spend. So whether we go.
Well, you keep saying it's per student, but you can't say it like that.
But
Because
obviously
that's
it scales, and so it's not tied to the student, but
Correct.
ultimately your spending, you can't go spend it on other students though, right?
Correct.
So it's kind of tied to.
It's
However
tied
many
to the
students you have.
building.
To the
It's tied to
school.
the building. But
I
what
understand.
I wanna say
But
with
there's
that,
scale.
You can do,
if we stayed at 3 or 4 students for years, obviously they're gonna be going, you don't need this much money, okay? So we wouldn't be a smart steward of their money if we continue to request $900,000 for 4 students
Right.
year over year. We're not gonna do that. That's not the right thing to do, right? So originally, those starting out, Recovery High School research shows that most of them do start out very small. And so
Sure.
they're aware of that, and they're willing to work with us on those numbers. And that's why when Vivo had the quick rise up to 150, I think was their first one, right, Jamie? They were like, whoa, this isn't not research-based, this isn't how this works. I love the Vivo people for all the internet, for the record, they're very nice. But just that understanding of that it's gonna be a slow growth process, they are aware of that. I don't know if I'm
No,
answering
it
your
makes
question.
sense. I mean, it does make sense.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying there's scale to education. So if you're educating 2 kids, like the fixed cost of having a teacher, you got 1 teacher, if you have 2 students or you have 10 students, the teacher doesn't cost, they don't charge per student. And so,
There are some fixed costs like that.
Right.
The director's gonna cost the same, the administrative assistant's gonna cost the same.
The counselor.
Some of the usage of utilities cost is probably gonna be similar,
Sure.
because you've got the lights on and the
Yeah.
heating and air and that kind of stuff. You know, would there be possibly some additional things we could do to outside to make it a welcoming, environment? And I think that is one thing, I did not go on any of the site visits, but Ms. Keys went on all of them. Did you go on?
I didn't go on them yet.
Okay, yeah, you're right, but.
You can use it for summer school, or you can keep it
yes.
up,
And this
open
is
24 hours.
A
or
lot of
there's
summer
lots of
programming is
things.
built in here, especially
Like
for the recovery
full day.
piece.
oh, sorry,
all
say that part
summer.
again? I'm sorry.
There is, the HR pieces to keep recovery processes going throughout the summer and Christmas break and things like that is built in also. Some academic pieces for summer school are built in. We could, you know, it may be something that if we are struggling to get some increasing the enrollment to maybe we pay for additional programming for after school for kids that might need it, that aren't sure they want to leave their high school to come, that they know that they have an issue and they want help. And maybe we take some of the money, instead of hiring 2 teachers during the day, and maybe we do some additional evening for after-school programming. We have some flexibility, we just would have to justify why we're moving money and spending it differently with Desi, but I do that about once a week right now with my other things. So I don't feel like that would be an issue if we needed to do it. The money is also, the 3.6 million that they have, well, it's not here, but it's in another spot, and it shows you where their DMX money is. That's opioid settlement money. So it's in a fund that's making money, right? So for us, they divided it up annually. If it, for some reason, doesn't get spent that year, the state doesn't lose the money.
Right.
There are some things with federal funding that you do sometimes lose the money if you don't spend it as far as the state is concerned. This is not that situation because it's opioid settlement money. So if we truly can't be good stewards of, and we don't need 900,000, like, I really think the first 3 years, regardless of how many, well, this year there's no students, but those first 2 years, regardless of how many kids, we're gonna use pretty darn close to that amount of money because of some startup costs, right? But after that, if we don't have to add additional student devices as fast, or we don't have to, we're just gonna have to look at it, because you also don't wanna go from, oh, we only had 3 students the first year, we had 10 students the second year, and now we got 30 students. You know, we don't wanna skip those steps and then not have enough student devices. So we will still be buying some of those technology pieces and some of those desks, whether our student enrollment is that high or not, because I don't wanna lose that money that year. And then those kids come 2 years later, and I don't have the money 2 years later to buy what I said I was gonna buy 2 years prior.
Yep.
So there are some things like that that we'll have to just really keep an eye on.
I just wanted to add to that, the reason I said not per student is, one of the board members was saying that, he kept saying that to me about the first year, and he was like, that's over $100,000 per kid, and I was like, what is he talking about, it's not that. He was taking the amount and dividing it amongst the kids, and then when we explained to him that a big part of ours was capital
Sure.
project, then, which I know
He
you
canceled the
understand.
Paris field trip for that. Smart thing.
He just was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, like, he wasn't understanding the large amount with such a small number of kids.
I lied about my last question. I have one more at least.
That's
So,
okay.
if we had 10 students that came from Cape Central High School and said, I want to go to Recovery High School in year 1, and so we had state funding of like 15.5 or 16 or whatever the number is, $160,000 associated with these 10 students. Does the Recovery High School, this budget funds those 10 students now, and we keep the $160,000, $170,000, or we lose this money?
So the ADA, we still get as a district. That's not included in this, if that's what you're asking. Our Cape Public Schools ADA is not included in this.
So we would still, Lindsay would still get to collect the ADA and put it into the district's coffers.
The general fund, not just one for
Yes.
the recovery high school.
And conversely, if we said, hey, nobody in the district wants to come, but we have 10 kids from outside the district, whether they came from the state of Missouri, if they came from Illinois, it's probably a little different, I don't know. Do we expect people to cash pay? Like, I mean, in some ways, I almost wonder, and again, I have no idea, but part of me wonders if I'm a family who is affluent, and I say, I have a kid struggling from addiction, and they don't have one of these in my community or anywhere close, which is true most of the country, I think. There's not very many. And so they say, we're going to come to Cape Girardeau because I want you to go to this school, then they would just pay the $17,000 or whatever the number is, and they would be enrolled.
If they were smart,
Yeah,
they would
most of them
enroll,
are.
and if they
Right.
live in
Yeah.
Cape,
Right.
they would enroll
They
in
would
Cape
come to
Public
Cape,
Schools.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm with
they
you, I'm
are
with
We
you.
could collect it, they
Even
could
better.
take off
If they
7145.
moved to Jackson and enrolled in Jackson.
They could do the same
Jackson
thing.
could do the
They
same thing.
I'm
But they
with you.
Yeah.
still,
That's what they
Yeah.
I don't
do.
know how it works exactly with Illinois. I'm not sure that
Right.
would work.
I don't
with
think they
Illinois.
would.
If they say, I love living in
That's a whole nother
Thebes,
state.
They might
It's like
have a
laundry at that
sorry,
restriction, I don't
they'd
know.
have
need
to
to
move
move
over,
to
they'd have to
Cape.
move to
That's
Missouri.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure about the Illinois part,
Sure.
but the Missouri part, yes, wherever they buy their house at, they just enroll in that school district
and the money follows them.
and the money
Yes.
follows them, and that school district really isn't out any money.
Right.
Because
They're
they,
still
Because of the
they
way
get
they get
reimbursed.
it reimbursed.
Right.
Like, they're not, it's not like they're gonna be like, well, I'm not sending you over there because it's gonna cost us money. It's not costing them any, so there's no skin off their back to send a student to this program.
So my only fear with this, and I brought this up the first time we talked about this, and I think, I appreciate this dialogue, I really do. And I think, honestly, obviously a lot of thought has gone into this, and I think the economics seem to be tight. I mean, again, the idea that this is something that is going to be grant funded, ultimately a third party, basically opioid settlement's going to pay for this. Legislators have decided this is how they want to spend that money, and we have gotten our paws on some of it to go try this here. My biggest single concern is I think with all of the eyes and attention on our district around people who look at our district and say, such a lot of bad things happening in Cape Public Schools. And there are plenty around who have that perception. That the idea that this is kind of the priority thing that we would go pursue, in my mind, reinforces all of that negativity, recognizing that addiction doesn't discriminate. It's everywhere, it's in every community.
You're not saying it's true, you're just saying it's the perception.
Well, I'm saying, I think it reinforces some of the negative stigmas that our district wrestles with each and every day. And the people who want to are gonna say, well, yeah, of course Cape Public Schools building a recovery high school, like they need one, even though whether they're a parochial school locally who have big addiction rates based on access to financial resources to go buy drugs and controlled substances, or they're a public high school who's more affluent and, again, has access to these things as well. My fear is it kind of just reinforces people who want to run away from our district and says, this is just more evidence that this is not the place for my kids.
I think it would support the idea that we are taking students potentially out of the school, lessening that exposure to their student and trying to support the need of the student that we're removing from the regular high school so that that's less number of students potentially that they would be
I think that's fair.
enrolled.
I think that's fair.
I would say that you and I have talked about this before, I do understand your perspective, it's grown on me. Your perspective has grown on me, but it is not, our district does have students with drug problems. Guess who else does? Jackson Public Schools. Guess who else does? Notre Dame. Guess who else does? I could keep going. But is that the way people look at Cape Girardeau Public Schools? Maybe. But I think what it shows is that we recognize the problem and we're dealing with it, just like we've talked about other problems today that we're recognizing and we're trying to deal with and find creative ways to service our students in other ways who may not be ready to be in the school setting. I think it shows that we're being proactive.
And I don't disagree with that. And again, I think both things can definitely be true at the same
Sure,
time.
absolutely.
I was gonna say one other thing.
I would hate for us not to do this on the perception of possibly people that aren't even doing anything in the community.
But we do need to be ready to answer
Address
those
it.
questions.
I
address
do.
it,
I-
and
most
we do need
definitely.
to make sure we're marketing it correctly.
Most definitely, I agree with that. I actually thought that was a trick question, but you answered it very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that, our Career and Technology Center has a budget specifically for marketing. And while I didn't necessarily include that in the grant, I do think there will be money, especially maybe not currently, but moving forward, there will be money, for that, although Ms. Talent has been involved in the conversations so that she can make sure that we're pushing this out in the right way so that it's almost like a regional
Message is
recovery
right.
high school.
Yeah, so that the
And
message
not
is right.
like the Career Center is a regional career center, and we need to promote it more like that. Whereas the first couple of years are really, we decided 20 was when we would start allowing students from other schools, but we need some time to just figure out procedures too, since we're starting.
Right.
It's really more about developing those procedures than it is about.
You need a strong foundation before you
Yes,
start
and we
moving
need
forward.
to establish that strong foundation and how are we gonna handle when certain things come up?
Yep.
What type of students, we know students with drug addiction, but are there gonna be behaviors that we're not gonna allow into this school setting? And how are we gonna develop that application process for students outside the district? Because this is not an alternative school. This is a recovery high school. And so that students with significant behaviors that are not substance abuse related should not be allowed to attend this school because that's not the intent and the purpose of it. And so then the holding off till year 4 for students outside of the district is as much about establishing procedures as it is about numbers. And we need some time to develop all of that. And so, but Ms. Talent has been reading over the information and really spending time thinking about how to roll this out so that it doesn't, it's a positive and not a negative.
And we also have.
I would like to just put that on there that, people can put negative things about our district.
Because we have made a concerted effort to continue to push positive stories out about our district. So I have to ask the question that some of these people, if they're looking for an excuse to either leave Cape Public Schools, or if they're looking for an excuse to downgrade and act like our school district is a bad, did they already have one leg out the door, quite honestly? And I just have to ask that because I feel like we are making great efforts to promote our school district in a positive light. And I will say it's growing a little frustrating to hear that all of this feedback just here, I'm not hearing it in the community, we're not hearing it in surveys, that there's this bad taste of Cape Public Schools in our community. I'm just not seeing it.
I think part of what you're hearing though is 20 years of a reputation that has been addressed only in maybe the last 2 years. I agree. You guys have made an incredible effort to speak positively of our school, to really push out a positive narrative. And it's not just a narrative, it's the reality of what's happening in our schools. I fully believe that. That's why I'm here. That's why my kids are in this school. So I know what we're saying is what is actually happening in our schools. But it is a more recent development to have this concerted effort to speak so positively of our school when I feel like we're fighting against something that has been spoken negatively about for many, many years. And I don't think you see a turn that quickly. I think that's a slow process. And I think that's why you still have, these people saying we're still hearing negative things. I think it's a result of
It
that.
starts with us, though.
It does,
It starts
I
with this
agree.
Here.
Right here.
Yes,
So it starts here. So,
and we're doing it.
Yeah.
we have to do that, and that's the reason why you're seeing the change the last 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we've talked about fairly much every week on what's going on, because Kristen has done some things that are pretty powerful with communication.
Well, and the
last couple
reality,
of years, really.
we all have to understand now, we are in a very turbulent political climate against public schools. If we're not on the same page here, and if we're not shutting down conversations in our community that people are having in our social circles, then we're contributing to that problem. So I know all of you send your kids here. You feel confident in our schools. Most of you guys are graduates, like I am, of this school district. We're passionate about this school district. That's why I moved back here from Memphis to be a part of this school district. You know, you won't hear a negative thing come out of my mouth about this school district. It's not going to happen. And I'm definitely going to go to bat for the district, for our teachers who work. People who talk badly about our district are bashing our teachers. And they're saying that the work they're doing every day is not important. That's unacceptable. And it does start here in our conversations that we have here, our conversations when we leave here. But the reality of it is we've all got to be on the same page, because we're fighting an uphill battle. And they're coming for us. They're coming for the public schools. Sorry. I just had to push back just on, you know, again, because we've made such strong efforts with a very, very minimal budget because we are a public school district, so we have to do a lot of free things. I'm thankful for all the support we get from the CTC. But I guess I'm missing out. Maybe people are scared to talk to me negatively about the school district, and that might be more what it is, because they know I'm going to shut it down, right?
I'm sure that's part of it. And again,
Probably.
I echo what Crystal said. Again, I've sent all my kids to Cape Public Schools. I
Yes.
graduated here. You won't find a bigger supporter. But ignoring people who are saying negative things and have reasons to not like our district doesn't make it go away. And so, at the end of the
Asking those
day,
people to come to
the
us.
reality is we can say it's anti-public school. We can say there's anti-public school sentiment, and there is some.
There's some,
But
there
the
is
public school that's
racism
adjacent
as
to us,
well.
west of us,
Quite
is
honestly.
now 2x as big as us. 2x. And when I went to school here, we were the big school. And so something has fundamentally changed in the last 33 years. And again, I think we've got to acknowledge it. And I think it's awesome. I think there's a ton of great work going on. So do not take my comments to disparage your work. That was certainly not my intention.
Not taken that way, no.
But at the end of the day, there are a ton of people. And if we're surveying families in Cape Girardeau Public Schools, they're not in our survey because they left.
Yeah.
And they opted out.
Well, how do you say that? That's saying that any survey then that goes out is tainted.
No, I'm saying there's a bias on who you're surveying. So if you said,
we're
I'm only going to
surveying-
survey people who are still here, you're only going to get answers from people who are still here.
But you're talking about people in our district currently that are talking bad things about our district.
No,
That
I'm not
maybe
saying that.
want to leave to go to another school.
Well, there are
district.
some, I think there are
So
certainly
we
some that
have-
are on the fence, for sure.
We have
Yeah.
surveyed community members, we have surveyed parents, and I'm not saying there aren't a handful or 10, I don't know what numbers you guys, I would love for you all to give us those numbers or ask those people to come talk to us, because we haven't had
And that would be helpful.
one conversation.
Yes.
We haven't had one conversation with any people that you're talking about that have shared a concern with you, to my knowledge. I mean, I haven't. Dr. Benyon, have you?
No.
Okay.
And
So-
your numbers are wrong with 2 times the size of our district. It's, they're about 5,000, we're about 4,500. So they're
I just mean the
about
high
500.
school. I think the high school class are about twice as big, right? 250 versus 500?
We have about three,
Yeah, and
300.
when I graduated in 98, we were maybe 320 per class, 320, 330.
Last check, there were around
250.
1,600 total students. so
1,200.
400 per class. We're still sitting
What year did you go?
around 280 to.
I feel like we're getting into the
In the
weeds
weeds,
here.
it
The
is.
point
Yeah.
is
But I want
still
the
they've
numbers
grown.
that- if we're
Whether
gonna
it's
be doing it.
double, whether it's
Yeah.
by 25%,
Yeah.
whether it's by
Sure.
75%, they're bigger and they weren't. So
Sure.
they've grown. And I don't even think it's about like naming a specific person and making them come talk to you. The reality is that I deal with the public moving into our district every single day, and I can tell you consistently what we are told. And Jared, I think you would probably back me on this. Consistently what we're told is we don't want to be in this district. We want to be in the neighboring district. And that is not just community conversation. That is big company conversation. That is, major companies that are employing our town are having conversations with their incoming people, telling them, this is the district you need to be in. So we can say that's not happening, we can say that a survey is telling us that that's not the case, but I'm hearing it every day.
Yeah, we're not saying it's not happening, we're just saying it's not coming
Not
directly
coming
to
to
us.
us.
But
And that
I
very
did
well
wanna
could
add
be.
that, we've gotten to this point before in our conversation, and out of that came some really good things, progress that we've made as a district in marketing and in doing things where we're really hitting academics and a lot of things. So I don't wanna get us off track, like you said, from the Recovery High School. I think that optics, is something we need to, clearly make sure that we market appropriately and correctly. And, I think we can do that and still be the great school district that we are. I think we can do both.
I think that's fair.
But I think we'll continue to have these discussions.
And I think we gotta push at each other. It's okay to disagree. Like, you know what I mean on things?
Absolutely. Sure.
It makes us better.
Yeah, I
And so
agree.
we shouldn't sit and say, this isn't happening, or nobody tells me this, because
Yeah.
again, like, it is real. And the reason we bring it up is because we've gotta be able to address what's real.
Sure, and we're not saying it's not real, but think about your company and people that support your company. If you were hearing that everybody's saying bad things about your company, but nobody ever says anything to you or the people that in the leadership from you, nobody ever comes to you, nobody ever has the conversation to say, hey, here's what I'm hearing, how can we turn this? Then how do you help? How do you help as the leader? How do we help as the leaders of this district we're so passionate about? We're trying to make changes based on what you guys are telling us, not what our community is telling us, what you guys are telling us. We are trying to do that. We are working our
Understand.
butts off. Our teachers
Yeah.
are working their heinies off to do that.
Yep.
So we do need to continue to have these conversations,
Yeah.
but there is fairness in saying, if people can't come to us and help us understand their perspective, we can't change something that we don't know specifics about.
I think that's fair. And again,
It is fair.
I think.
But I hear both of you, and I think you have very valid points. I'm sorry, Jared, that I'm in your face. I keep pointing across the stage. I think it's good discussion. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Guys, thank you very much. Good discussion on Recovery High School and other very important optic discussions there that we continually keep going on. So, up next, Technology Department evaluation. You should have tried to go before that.
If only. Good evening. On a positive note, our district device insurance is one of the cheapest in any district. And
Good selling point.
and even though we're seeing close to a 20% increase in the cost of the devices, we're anticipating keeping the insurance costs the same. So we're trying not to pass that on.
What percentage, sorry, I'm asking a question
No.
before you're even done. What percentage of devices end up needing a repair?
That's hard to say, because we have a lot of repeat offenders.
You
So
don't say.
if you go just by numbers, it's 15 to 20% in a year, but some they're in there for the fifth, sixth time
Okay.
by February, and others we don't see them for 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of hard to say the exact percentage, but obviously the repair costs are much lower in the elementaries up to middle school because they're cart-based, they don't go home. We sprung for cases at the middle school level, and that reduced our 25% breakage down to about 8. So the cost of the cases was well worth it in that building. So I mean, if you drop from the 25-ish, actually it's close to 27, if you drop that down to 8, and then hopefully it stays at that or even lower for 4 years, the life of the device, makes a huge difference. But we did pull out and reuse 1,400 screens in the last 2 years from devices. So we've been our own parts recycler. So we have not bought a screen in over 2 years. By trying to be the best stewards of our money, obviously. We can reuse keyboards, bezels, things like that. So we take all the pieces that we can use off of them, even if the device is too old and too slow to use. We can still use those pieces on the next model. Unfortunately, this year they're changing models. First time in 6 years. But we're still going to try and keep that device cost low. Ms. Dudek and I, we increased our parts budget several years ago to cover that offset, and I think we're going to still be in that. So I think we'll be okay.
The manufacturers are onto your game, and they said, no,
Yeah.
no,
No.
this doesn't
That's
I know. Other districts have outsourced their insurance, so you have to pay another company, and then you also have to pay a deductible every time you use it. So if you break a screen, maybe it's $20 or it's $5. Depending on the insurance policy, you get things like that. So the insurance is more, and you have to pay per incident fee. And we're really, really trying to avoid any of that. And you also get a discount if you have more than 2 students. So we're looking out for the families, trying to keep it best we can. And it hasn't cost us that much money. And by that much, I think 10,000 for the year and that's the entire district.
Because we're essentially self-insuring this, you're saying?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Have been since the first day, since 2014, January 6th of 2014 when we rolled out. Our largest increase was the repair budget of 10,000, and since then. So I'm very, very proud of my staff and how they've been able to manage that and recycling our own parts and things like that. And the labor to do that is much lower than it is to buy. Screens are anywhere between $30 and $120 now, depending on if it's a touch screen or non-interactive. So
That's awesome.
the rest of the numbers I won't bore you with. You guys saw it. You have all the information there. The biggest concern, I think we have a very strong program. Our biggest concern is the cost going forward. I'm sure you've seen it in the news about processor manufacturers pulling out of the Chromebook space, memory manufacturers pulling out of the consumer space, only going with AI. So that was, I think, 40% of the memory that was sold in the commercial or the consumer market is now going to AI only. So obviously that's about a 12.5% increase that we're seeing currently, and will probably go up. But I mean that's kind of our biggest concern, as well as getting more offsite backups.
I can say that, just from my experience in working with schools across the state, they look at Brian's department and they're jealous, of all of the things that they get to do, and the way that they do it. They're leaders in what they do across the state, whether it's, hosting some of the guys around here, or going out and presenting, and talking about how what they do, or being involved across different conferences and stuff like that they actually help run. Even in Infinite Campus user groups across the state, they're coming to to see what good schools do. And I know we don't get to talk about that a lot, but we look at the numbers, we look at our program, but what we do with what we have is more than what most schools get to brag about. So just wanted to say that as well.
Great job.
Thank you. And years ago, we used to get 2 applications for an opening, and now I have to narrow it down to 20.
Wow.
I think the last one I cut it down to 17, and then I cut it down to 10, and I'm having to go through and cut who we want to interview now instead of who we can get to interview.
Right.
That's
So
awesome.
it's been a huge swing in 30 years.
The only bad thing is that our guys are so good that they get you know, spoken at by Fortune 500
Yeah,
companies,
We've been-
stuff like that.
We've been poached
Hey,
repeatedly.
stay positive here. Who's our hype guy? Now you're trying to screw it up.
Okay.
It's a good problem to have.
We've been poached repeatedly, and we have brought in incredibly talented staff.
That's
to
a good
replace
problem
them.
to have.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So,
Well, great job.
Have any questions? Thank you very much, sir.
thank you.
Okay, back up. All right, academic services report, AMI discussion.
Everybody's favorite topic.
You're gonna make them go back and do AMI for the days
We,
that are off?
hey, that is not up to me. I do get to refresh you guys about AMI and some of the changes over this year. We really haven't changed anything. Matter of fact, later on this year, I'm going to bring back the AMI plan because we have to vote on it once a year. But I just wanted to give you guys an update. This year, they had changed the rules, which is why we were able to use so many snow days over the last couple weeks. And that will continue. We still have a snow day left before we start AMI days. And just glad that years ago we figured that out, how to do that properly. You know, some of these schools, they're almost out of AMI days or are out of, as of today. And so this year we stole an idea from Fox and
Did you make this?
started using
The
it.
TV station or the school in Arnold?
The school in Arnold.
Okay.
When I saw
But
it
I
on
want to give them
Facebook, I
their due.
wondered if
It was a
was
great
you.
idea. And that's to have a snow day tracker. And so we've got it on the website now. And so you guys can see it live and where we're at in the process. And so we just wanted to share that for everybody so that you knew. We'll still post that when we can, but it is now on the website. So at any point during the year, you can see where we're at.
We burned through a few of them last week.
We did burn through
Just a few, just a couple.
so, but if you guys have any questions about AMI and how that works, we can definitely have that discussion.
My kids were happy.
I'd like to learn
Were
about
they
AP
happy that
psychology.
they went back on Friday?
Yeah. No, they were not happy about
Was
that.
the parents happy that they went back on?
One was. The other one,
The other was also-
works
The other
here.
one had to work.
Yeah. The other one works here, so that didn't help. All right, so we'll segue into our favorite psychology prospectus for AP psychology.
Yes, really excited about this. I was supposed to bring this to you in December, and we just lost it. And so, but here it is. Really excited to expand our AP offerings again in social studies. They've got a ton of them. But Candace Hyder at the high school has been working on this one for a couple of years now, and they're ready to roll it out. And so later on, you'll get to vote on this, but it's another AP class for our students to take. In psychology, we've got just the regular psychology class still, and this would be kind of the next level to that. And so we're excited to be able to offer that to our students and give them some more AP level credit.
Anybody have any AP psychological questions to ask? None of us want to get analyzed. We move on. Yep. Thank you. Community Teachers Association report. Thank you very much.
You've been so patient.
Yes, we
It
appreciate it.
has been interesting,
Well,
so.
good.
Yes. Hi,
That's-
I'm-
A board meeting was interesting. That's
It
fantastic.
was, because I feel like as a classroom teacher, like I have not heard anything about the Recovery High School. I think maybe one thing on Facebook, so it was interesting. And I feel also as a CTA executive board member, like if someone would come or I hear the conversations, like I can now respond. So,
Awesome. Good.
yeah, it's good. My name is Kelly Bruns. I am the CTA membership person for Cape Girardeau. I wanted to say also, with listening to the ladies from the dietitians, I teach third grade at Clifford Elementary, and the day the watermelon came out, you could hear, like, the kids are coming through the lunch line, watermelon, there's watermelon. Down the line, and the kids are in the back going, there's watermelon! And the ones in the back did not get watermelon because it was so popular, but another favorite, about a fourth of my class is now in love with the sunflower butter with their celery. And so they take that, even though there's still about 2 of them that argue with me that it's peanut butter, and I'm like, it's not. But still, it's just from the front lines, I guess. So that's fun to see that stuff coming out. So From CTA members and principals, some staff shout outs for our buildings. I'm so sorry, I'm a little nervous, like, I'm used to like talking to little kids. Okay.
We're just big kids,
Yeah,
just bigger
right?
kids,
We
just
just
bigger
grew up.
kids.
Pretty much. Exactly.
Used to be little kids.
Okay, so Alma Schroeder says, shout out to those teachers and staff who are sometimes pulling double duty in the building by holding a chair or committee position. They list off the content leadership teams, Ms. Pickens and Ms. Ayers for leading the social committee, Ms. Wiseman and Ms. O'Gwin for being the PD team, Ms. Frazier for being the CTA rep for so many years, and Ms. Mahay for the support on the calendar committee. They also have a shout out to the staff who run the after-school clubs, Ms. O'Gwin's coding club, Ms. Gentry's choir, and Coach Camp's running club. Honorable mention to the teachers who help weekly with the running club, Mr. Brown, Mr. Borden, Mrs. Edmondson, and Ms. McGinty. Blanchard, shout out to Christy Jones for creating invaluable lessons for the third graders and preparing them for MAP testing. To Gina Herzog, who loves her first graders and gives her all to reach each one. Eileen Meisner for being so loving and informative throughout the SPED process. Coach Smith for coaching one of our youth basketball teams. Mr. Lindbergh for being such an outstanding teacher. He is dearly loved by all students and is calm, funny, and always on top of his kids' learning. Shout out to Santana Arens for creating book clubs that have sparked a love for reading in our fourth graders and now our third graders too. From the district office, shout out to Tyson Moyers for starting the youth athletic programs. You can go to any gym in Cape on a Saturday and find Cape schools being represented on the court. Amy Dunn for having the vision of Cub Club and creating a safe and fun place for our youth to stay after school. Central Academy, IT extraordinaire Nathan, and I'm not sure how to say his last name, I was told it's French. Richarde, there you go, for helping Positive Pathways always stay on track. At Clifford, our building, our Encore teachers are preparing a whole building third quarter behavior reward for the students so they can work on that during the winter months because we've started having inside recess. It's rough. Okay. To Brad Sheridan, he is our EL teacher. He does a great job of building relationships with the students that sometimes even in the hallways, like, we have to be like, Mr. Sheridan. But it's a good thing. Classroom teachers are working hard to fill out that data and care team plans and work on instructional checkpoints after all the middle of the year testing has been completed. And we have a first year teacher, Miss Elder, and she has been doing a wonderful job in first grade. CTC, Miss Elliott has done an outstanding job working with all students to complete their resumes and ensure they are fully prepared for mock interview day. Her dedication to guiding students through professional expectations and preparing them for real-world readiness is greatly appreciated. Miss Kara LeGrand works diligently with her early childhood education students to prepare them for teaching and for successfully completing the CDA exam. She also goes above and beyond to support our MO options students as they prepare for the HiSET, helping them earn their high school diploma. Her commitment and passion for her students truly make a difference. From the high school, Ms. Ritter for being an outstanding CHS teacher who keeps families informed and encourages students and guides them for the future. Early Childhood Center, to everyone who helps load and unload cars in this freezing weather. Thanks to Austin and all the custodians for clearing the walks. Franklin cafeteria staff used sign language to communicate with a student to ask what she would like for lunch. It's kind of fun. Jefferson, Miss Macon, our newest special ed teacher, is doing amazing. She's taken on the challenge by starting in January, but that hasn't stopped her. Junior high, shout out to all the TAs at the junior high. They have gone above and beyond to meet the needs of all of our students. Shout out to Kim Dockery. She's here every day working with students one-on-one, one-on-two, and does an amazing job. Shout out to Amanda Shackles. She is hardworking, caring, and supportive for all students. She asks questions, speaks up when she is unsure of something, and truly desires to work with her one-to-one student so that he can become independent. Shout out to all of our co-teaching pairs. Differentiating instruction can be a difficult task, but you guys work so hard to make their curriculum accessible for each and every student. At the middle school, they would fall apart without Brooke DeLoach and Callie Centers. CMS is thankful to have 2 competent and passionate counselors to aid the students and assist with all CMS activities. Ms. Hiked for doing an amazing job keeping interventions in place as her partner was out sick for several days. Vanessa Harrington for knowing each of our kiddos by name and treating them as her own. She goes above and beyond in her job and for our staff. We are blessed to have her as our front office face here at CMS. Someone else added, I wanted to say vertical teaming with the junior high was an awesome experience and hope they get to do it more often. I loved hearing what other people were doing and how our things affect theirs. Hopefully we can meet with the elementaries too for more teaming. And then last but not least, Becky Wright for her leadership support that she shows our staff and students every day, and they feel blessed to have her. So,
Thank you very much.
5 pages.
Great
You did
job.
great.
So, and thank you guys for all that you do, because I think also like hearing some of that, like, this is a big job. So, thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you. You have a good night. You can stay for the rest of it. Who knows what will happen. We still have a lot of points on here. Up next, Treasurer Finance Report. Ms. Dudek.
So this report is for December. We started with the general fund, with an income balance of 13 million. Revenues received for the month were 16 million, so we're starting to get, our tax payments. We had a pretty large one in December, and that affects the general fund and the debt service fund. If you remember, our revenues split between those 2 funds, so you'll see the debt service fund got 3.4 million in revenue. Expenses were 3.5, and transfer 2.3 special revenue fund. So this is the time of year where the revenues are really exceeding our expenses, where before we were looking at the opposite. Leaving us with an ending fund balance of 23.5 million. If you have any questions.
I have one question that's not on this report. It's on the revenues and the expense revenue report. I guess I love one of these 3 attachments that Jamie just pulled up. So I love that you say kind of percent realized and like last year through this month, kind of saying, hey, how do you compare where we are versus where we thought we'd be in the budget and where we kind of expect to be as of last year? There's a few of these that kind of strike me as, kind of odd. Like, and the bigger categories, like earnings from investments and interest, like I think our budget is we're going to have $1.5 million in revenue as you get like about 8 lines down there, and so we're $290K year to date. Is that a function of? I would have actually thought interest rates on our investment would probably, depending on what we're invested in, would have gone up a little bit over where they've been, or maybe they've gone down a little bit over time. Are there big categories where you feel like there's a big swing that's noteworthy? And I guess I say that, I see on here like bonds, we paid 0 because we've got big principal payments coming up that haven't happened yet. So there's some things that like make sense based on timing. But when I look and say percentage of total revenues, we're at 48.1%, which to me, I feel like we're more than 50% through the year, I would think. I don't know exactly what our number is, but I'm thinking more than 50. And then if you look at expenses, we're only at 41.8% realized, but that $3.7 million chunk of that bond principal would raise that number substantially when it happens. Are there any big things that you see that are different than you thought that would have like a material impact? Just
So right now is definitely the time to be looking at that. So when I go through, there's obviously going to be things that like I've budgeted in there now.
Sure.
100% accurate. Interest is something that I can look at. Some of it could be maybe you don't have everything booked at the date. But when I looked at this report before we came to the meeting today, and so I see, to me, I feel like our revenues look pretty good.
Yeah.
We're like halfway through the year, they're almost at 50%, budget will pick up. But also our expenses are lagging. So then I thought, okay, I need to go back into the expenses. I know that especially like in salaries, there's things that are over budgeted, and those need to be adjusted. And so, especially now, as we're starting to talk about like next year's budget and salaries, I'll be going through and review those and making amendments to get those numbers closer to where we'll be at the end of the year.
cool. You always work the magic, so I wasn't trying to dig in the weeds, but
No.
it's interesting when you show the dynamic of one, that we're a little below on revenues for 50%, but we're way below on expenses, and you start saying, hey, what's driving this? Are we going to end up with more money than we thought, or less money than we thought? And
Right.
Do you want to talk about that software program that's going to be able to give you some different information?
yeah.
Are you ready to talk about that? I don't know.
She says not
Yeah.
really, but sure.
she doesn't want to talk about it,
Since you
Dr.
asked.
Jenkins.
You're going to break down the reports like what you're
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
So
differently.
there is a new program that schools have been using called Balance HQ, and we're going to start using it. And it's a software program that would be used in, like it complements the accounting software that we have right now, but it has capabilities to do forecasting and help identify areas where maybe we're over budgeted or under budgeted better than our system can right now. It's more like a manual system. So we're in the very early stages around giving them like all of our expenses and revenues to load in, and I'm hoping that will help like our reporting, and help our reporting to you guys in the future. Just give us like a better dashboard, just a little bit better reports to look at. I do like this report. I think this is a really good report that System offers. I think it gives a good picture of, what the budget looks like and where we are.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I wasn't trying to get too deep in the weeds, but there's obviously a lot of expense categories and a lot of revenue categories. And so as you start looking at big chunks and saying, hey, are we moving towards what we would have thought, recognizing I don't have any visibility to like how big some chunks might be that have been paid for or not paid for, but
There's a lot of, I will say this, there's a lot of revenue categories, but when you really look at it, there's really like a few main categories of our revenue.
Yeah.
We're primarily funded with local taxes and state revenues.
right. Cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. All right, support services report. More about the watermelons.
Good evening. I'm going to say to you all and say that everything we needed covered was covered earlier. Grants and board reports.
Any big nasty stuff happen in the snow or anything? Everything good?
It's going to be cold tomorrow. In the mornings.
Thank you, sir.
Meteorology
A
report.
little bit of freezing rain, but it'll hopefully be above freezing. So,
Awesome report.
We'll be good.
Thank you.
Josh is our go-to for travel. If one of us has to travel, we're like, do we go or do we not go?
I'm gonna go to Muncie, Indiana tomorrow if you wanna come along, so.
Do not
Me-
recommend.
No, me either. All right, board reports, MSBA delegate report.
She has no report, sir.
She has no report today, it looks like. Pay attention to your emails, obviously MSBA sends out emails, hopefully you guys get them. Lots of stuff coming up, March 10th-ish is the Capitol Day, and then just they have their monthly lunch and learn kind of things. So. Legislative report, nothing to talk about, is there?
Nothing. I have a whole page. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm gonna yap for a while. Okay, so for starters, the governor did his State of the State address. One of the things that he discussed was the budget. And just as a reminder, whatever he says his goals for the budget are doesn't necessarily determine our budget. It is just his goals. But it is nice to keep in mind because it does kind of tend to funnel how everything else goes. And so really the big takeaway is that he wants to reduce our budget for the state. He wants to reduce 600 million from the core budget. And so some specific things that would mean for education is there would be cuts to the incentive for keeping a 5-day school week, a cut to transportation funding, and no increase to the foundation formula. In addition to that, there is a pretty significant fight, for lack of the better word, going on currently about taxes and what taxes are going to look like in the state of Missouri. Because of SB 3, which was passed in the last special session of the last legislative session, there will be a vote in April on property taxes that will, for our county, we cap it at 5%. For some counties, it's no change. For some, it's a 0%. It really depends county to county. There's been some lawsuits about it, but bottom line is it will be on our April election. The question is, what does that actually look like for our district and or for any school district? The reality is we don't know. It remains to be seen. There are multiple bills surrounding this topic, and so there's not a lot of clarity right now. Essentially, what we're voting on is, do we want to give legislators the ability to adjust? It's not really, does the adjustment happen? It's, do we want to give them the ability to adjust? It's just kind of an open-ended, can they just go off and make some decisions on what our taxes will look like? There is a large conversation happening about property taxes, income taxes. Do they need to be eliminated? What is that going to look like? We are more than likely going to see that play out in a lot of depth over this next legislative session, and not just this session. This is probably a conversation we're going to see continue coming up for the next several years. In addition to property taxes and income taxes kind of being up in the air, federal funding is also uncertain right now. We are currently, federally speaking, operating under a continuing resolution, which means that we don't actually have a budget. So, you know, what is currently funded is good until, I don't even know what the recent, they just passed the most recent resolution. I don't know what the deadline is. But basically, that just has to keep continuing, or we have an actual budget at some point. But at this point, it is up in the air. And so that just, again, creates a lot of uncertainty. Plus, we have seen federal funding, even when we were under an actual budget, we have seen it just kind of be pulled at certain times. So all of that to say, with all of that uncertainty, is that we are just really in, I keep saying the word uncertainty, but we are in a moment of a lot of uncertainty. We just don't really know how things are going to look going forward. Another thing that was brought up in the State of the State was that Kehoe announced an executive action for an A to F rating for schools. That kind of came along with a piece of legislation where he's also encouraging legislators to pass into law this A to F system. It is, let's see, they have until June at this point with the executive action. DESE has until June to establish the rating system for all districts. So, you know, budget, federal funding, foundation formula, taxes, a new rating system, open enrollment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just a lot of things up in the air. So the biggest thing I wanted to talk about is really action steps of what can we do as a board, as a district, to just remain, you know, on top of all of the things that are going on. First of all, if you aren't already doing the MSBA for the board members, if you aren't already doing the MSBA Lunch and Learns, I highly recommend them. They're very educational. They're an hour on a Friday once a month. It's a Zoom, and they go into great detail about what is happening at the legislative level that affects our district. And they talk about not just like an overarching point of view, but like the actual impacts that we will see as a district. And so it's very informative. They've already had one this year, but if it is something that you're interested in doing, you can just reach out to Beth and she can sign you up so you can do the additional Zooms. Also, Casey mentioned, but Advocacy Day is March 10th in Jefferson City. It's a great opportunity to go, and you can meet with our legislators, of course, but also you get the opportunity to network with other board members and, you know, other people that are kind of thinking the same way that we are and also trying to support their public schools. Staying in touch with our legislators, you know, even just sending them a simple text, reminding them that we are a resource if they have questions. When things are coming up for them to vote on that have to do with public schools, we are people for them to reach out to share directly how those things affect us. You know, I've said this before, but it doesn't always have to be reaching out to your legislator to complain about something or to tell them, please vote X way. It can just be a brag about something great that's going on with our district. You know, we just had, like, the welding facility had their first graduates, just little mentions like that of great things that we're doing within our district. Senator Berger especially has been very great about open communication. He even invited Governor Kehoe to tour the CTC, which will be happening later this year, which is very exciting. So again, just maintaining that relationship is a great way for them to remind them of the things that the reasons public education is so important, but also for them to see it and hear about it directly. But I think the most important, especially as we're coming up on the bond issue and just as we see public education more and more becoming a conversation, I think the biggest thing is just remaining in active and open communication with our community members. I made a note of some things to be thinking about when you're talking to other community members, legislators, assessors, anybody, whenever these conversations come up. First of all, when we're talking, actually, I'm gonna take a drink really quick.
I hope I'm the only one who didn't talk to assessors. I like that. I like that though.
So, first of all, in terms of the property tax, income tax debate that is going on, we currently get the majority of our funds from property tax. Property tax is the most stable source of income. If you put them in order, property tax is the most stable, and then income tax, and then sales tax, sales and use tax. And, if we are depending solely on sales tax, not only is it the most volatile source of income, which makes it really hard for us to plan ahead, but also we then pay on the back end. If sales taxes are higher, we are buying things as a district. So even if we're getting, let's just pretend it's a one-to-one, they get rid of property tax and we do sales tax instead. Even if that is a one-to-one exchange, when we turn around and are buying things for our district, we're paying that higher price. And the reality is it probably wouldn't be a one-to-one anyway. But, it's just for the stability and what we pay in the end, property tax is what is the most stable for us and what is the most reasonable as far as what we pay out later. It's important to remember that public schools are not the only entity that relies on these taxes. There are lots of special districts, libraries, ambulance districts, water districts, special road districts, fire protection districts. They are crucial to maintaining community infrastructure as a whole. It's not just us. It affects every facet of your community. Taxes have become very vilified over the last several years. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, but those taxes have like a real everyday impact on our district, and that's what we need to focus on when we're talking to people. 53% of our budget comes from local support. Missouri as a state relies heavily on local support when it comes to public school education, and so that's 53% of our budget. That's a very significant amount of money that we're depending on our community. The reality is we have seen our community support things like this time and time again. It's not just with our schools. We have seen the bond issue pass in previous years, but we've seen water pass. We've seen the transportation. We've seen libraries. Our community members know that those things are important to them, and they do have a value to that. They do see the value in that, and I think it is important to remind them that they are directly affected by those things. One other thing that they talked about in the MSBA Lunch and Learn that I did is, talking specific numbers. Like I said, 53% of our budget comes from local support. But when we talk about like the foundation formula, right now it's $7,145 per student. That kind of adjusts year to year. We are hoping to see it go up, but again, we know the governor is hoping that it does not. But the reality of that number is that what we receive is not that number. We receive, I had to reach out to Lindsay for this. I tried to do the math on my own and I could not. $3,111.13 per student. So, even when we're talking about, every student gets $7,000, not really, we're getting $3,000. And so just knowing those numbers and knowing what that actually means for our district is just a great way to be talking to community members when these votes come up about the real impact that it has on our district. Okay, so that is legislative updates as far as what is going on actually at legislative the legislative level. But in addition to that, I think, oh, actually, it's not,
Refresh it, it should be there.
okay. Do we maybe have, oh, here it is, look at that. Dr. Binion and Ms. Talent worked very hard on getting a legislative priorities flyer together
It's
for
talent,
us.
it's
Oh, it was all Ms. Talent, he says, I believe that.
talent. You know I'm not.
So this is something that when we go to the advocacy day, we will hand out. But it's also just something great to look at and know, again, if when you're having conversations with people about the things we're prioritizing within our district, early childhood education, we know that is something very important and something we're trying to grow in our district. Career and technical education, and then policies that protect public schools. I'm not going to read line by line. You guys can take a minute to read that. But then on the second page, it talks about an initiative that we are working with Southeast, the university, and the city with expanding like air traffic control. Dr. Bennett, I don't know if you want to talk just very briefly about what exactly we're.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So with our partnership with the city and CMO, there was a few of you that were able to attend that. We had legislators there as well at the airport. But it's a partnership to help build out the airport so that we can get better businesses in here, bigger industries in here, so that our airport can actually support that. And so that's kind of the philosophy behind the workforce development project that we're doing. So we started having those conversations last year with the city, and then we brought in Southeast Missouri State University because they are also looking at partnering with us with their air traffic control program. We already have a aligned curriculum now that is our flight school. And so some of those kids go into the military, some of those kids go to CMO's aviation program, but then some of them may want to go into a air traffic control program as well. So we want to be able to offer several different options. They are wanting to start this also along with expanding their flight program. They have a waiting list to get into their flight program already. So we started talking to the airport. We know that the airport has to have the infrastructure to be able to bring in bigger planes. That's part of the reason why we didn't get some of those bids that they went out for with some of these bigger airlines. So their thing is they need to be able to increase their fuel farm so that they can actually bring in bigger planes. But one of the big things, and they took us on a tour of it, is our air traffic control tower. They need a new air traffic control tower. So they're going to have the lion's share of the ask that we're asking for. It's over $16 million. And then, of course, we're still pushing for our fire science ARF training facility. We were able to scale that back down because we could use some of the space that's in the old airport for classrooms. So we kind of scaled that project down a little bit so that it would fit into all of our needs, and the ask was around $16 million. As you can see, there's all kinds of regional impact, expansive safety capacity to meet the FAA state standards, which will allow us to bring in larger airplanes. And then it creates an aviation educational pathway for our high school kids, whether it's going into the pilot program and or the air traffic controller program. And then it builds a regional workforce hub for aviation, emergency management, and public safety. So we would be bringing people in to our community to go through these trainings, whether it's the airport, air traffic control training, or our ARF training on a regular basis.
Just really quick.
Yeah.
One cool thing about the way that Dr. Binion the district has gone about this is partnering with the university and the city. Both, one, it's a united ask to our legislators. Again, we know we're going into a season where there's not a lot to work with in the budget. And so to have a united ask rather than just being our district asking for money, it definitely it just looks nicer, and to see a full regional impact of how many people this affects, and it affects the city. And the city being strong means we're strong, us being strong means the university is strong. We all are intertwined. And so to really come together beforehand and figure out all those ins and outs and then present it, it's just a great way to be, showing ourselves to our legislators and hopefully
Unified front.
getting what we want.
Well, that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I think our governor's coming.
Yes.
It's part of that because I talked to Dr. Hobson, and he said
Mhm.
that he's also going to be visiting SEMO as well
Yeah.
during that same time, since we only have a 45-minute
Yeah.
window to show them what we're doing in our buildings. It's exciting.
Yeah,
It's
it
exciting.
is. It is.
So we will be presenting that to legislation when we go up on our visit.
Yeah.
And then we'll give our separate one for our program, which breaks it down dollar for dollar, that we have as well.
Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. All right, Cape Public School Foundation. We already talked about the Penguin Party. I don't know if there's any news. That's the 14th, so coming up. Be there. I heard Dr. Binion has a dance prepared.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, we just put it out there. All right, so up next, non-action items. So this is the first reading of board policies, EHPD, artificial intelligence use, policy IGBA-1, special education, policy JECA-2, eligibility to enroll, policy JFCJ, weapons in school, policy JGF, discipline reporting and records, policy JHDF, suicide awareness and prevention, policy GCPA, reduction in professional staff workforce, policy JEC-1, school admissions, policy JFCA, student dress code, policy JG, student discipline, policy JHDE, behavioral threat assessment, policy JHGE, reporting and investigating child abuse and neglect. So again, this is first reading. Make sure you guys peruse through those. We've got the policy board that votes on all those and goes through them too, and we'll have a second reading, and then we'll vote them in. So any questions on those? Okay, up next we have approval of consent agenda items. We've got the minutes from December 15th, 2025, approval of course prospectus, and payment of bills. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda items carry. Up next is our business. So first up, computer load, it's getting tired, there it is. So this is the Recovery High School acceptance of funding. So again, this is our discussion we had earlier. The recommendation is to authorize the superintendent or his designee to accept the grant funding from the Department of Mental Health and Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Funds be used to staff and run a Recovery High School to provide assistance and support to students throughout the area. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion to proceed with Recovery High School carries. Thank you guys very much on that. Up next, approval of local food source grant. The recommendation is to authorize the superintendent or his designee to accept the local food for schools through DESE and Food and Nutrition Services. A grant of $50,000 to be used for purchase of nutritious local foods to serve students through our NSLP. We would apply funding to local products such as meat, rice, and produce. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We should cut the watermelon slices thinner.
Yes, and have them at the board meeting. So that motion carries also. Aye, up next, information and proposals from board members. You got any?
I have one super quick one,
it.
because some people would interpret my comments earlier as being negative, and I hope they don't. But I'm gonna say something super positive. Last night, my family had the pleasure of hosting 9 Lady Central Tigers basketball players at our home for a pregame meal before the game tonight against Notre Dame, where the jungle showed up in mass, and we gave Notre Dame a little of this and a little of that for the big win. And I've never seen a group of 9 high school girls, aged freshman to senior across the spectrum, have more fun and laugh louder and harder than they did at my house last night. And it was so cool. And it made me proud that my kids go to this school. So, thank you.
With that, we get a motion to adjourn.
So you can hang out some more.
Second, now we go upstairs. Aye. All in favor? Aye.